What's going on, everybody? I'm Jerry, and today we're going over my Week 10 power rankings. Every team in the NFL, where they rank, how it changed from last week to this week, and kind of give you a bit of preview what's going on moving forward. This is not a playoff prediction list. This is just currently where they are, so I base it off of every week. So far, this isn't like a projection moving forward, just kind of where all the teams looks. And I do make some moves a little bit more drastically than others might make week to week, just depending on the strength of the wind. So let's get right into it with the Arizona Cardinals at number 32. Where they belong, you can see we've changed the picture down there. No longer have Josh Dobbs. So they have Clayton Tune, looks like a part of the Looney Tunes, because he's saying, that's all, folks, to the end of the Cardinals season. So they're done. With Clayton Tune in there, they're not doing anything. Really goes to show how good Josh Dobbs is and how much he was kind of carrying that team. I don't think Kyler Murray is even going to save this season. I don't see why they would want him to anyway. Not that they want to tank, but they could definitely put off saying he's not healthy and tank. And if they want to keep him at quarterback because of the contract and they can't trade him, then they could at least trade back their first pick and probably get a haul like the Bears did last year. And or you take a quarterback. It just seems like the perfect position for them. So the Looney Tune ends up keeping the team at 32 with a horrible loss to the Browns. Didn't really put up any offense of any sorts, and it was just kind of a mess. Deserved to be at 32. Panthers staying at 31. No movement this week either. Again, the Panthers lose, but with such a bad loss by the Cardinals, there was no reason to move the Panthers back. Panthers actually continuously moving up in their defensive yards per game up to 8th. But when you have Bryce Young throws the 2 pick sixes, so that kind of inflates a lot of the stats. And that's why the reason I put those stats on the screen over there is more because it shows how much the stats don't matter, but it also does kind of encompass where the team's at. I don't like to put out, just my ranking of the offense and the defense, so I'd rather have a statistical reference there at the very least to just help with it. That I can monitor every week and see what's going on. So Panthers, again, not much else to say. They stay at 31. Giants move back a spot only because I think their loss to the Raiders was significantly worse than the next team you'll see. I mean, offense still last. They've been last every week in yards per game and points per game. Their defense had been playing better the past 2 weeks, but with how much the Aiden O'Connell-led Raiders with their interim head coach, Antonio Pierce, there's no reason that they shouldn't move back to the third to last spot at 30. So they move back just the one spot. Bears end up moving up, one of the few teams that ever move up with a loss, but played a close game against the Saints, had multiple opportunities to win against the Saints team that has been pretty good this year. I mean, they're leading their division at the very least, not that they're going to be playoff contender or this, going at a Super Bowl run. But the Bears hung in there, and they've been a good team this year. So I think the Bears partially deserving to move up a spot anyway, and definitely ahead of the Giants with how much of a mess that was. So the rare loss with them moving up in my power rankings to the Bears at 29. Patriots stay where they're at, even in a loss. I didn't think it was worthy of the Bears passing them too. Bears shouldn't move 2 spots. I don't think the Patriots should move back. I think the Bill Belichick-led Patriots probably would still beat the Bears. That's not how I do these, is grading if one team would beat another. But there wasn't any room for the Patriots to move in the loss. Broncos do get to move back a little bit here, though, moving back a spot, even though they didn't play. They had a bye week. You just see the other teams around them. If another team around them plays better and is deserving to move up, like this next team here, the Las Vegas Raiders felt they should move up after beating the Giants 30-6. Not a crazy, it was kind of a crazy win to have a team that was expected to not really be much. You're putting in your third string quarterback or second string, whatever you wanted to call it. you have a brand new coach, short week with him, get your head coach fired. It's still impressive win, deserve to move up. Broncos don't necessarily deserve to move back because it was just their bye week, but I felt like the Raiders were worthy of moving up, so they have to move up to 26. Next team is the Tennessee Titans, moving back 2 spots. And just another loss to the Steelers. That was Thursday night. Thought they'd win that game, and I kind of bought into the Will Levis hype, and I moved them up last week from that big win from him, but Steelers offense finally started putting something together. Mainly just their run game played better, and a strong point of the Titans was their run defense, and just their defense in general, at least the front 7, and did not show up this week, and deserving to move back past these 2 teams. The next team being the 24th ranked Washington Commanders. They move up. Which, just another good game from Sam Howell. I felt like they were worthy of being ahead of the team that I just said. What team? Oh, the Titans. Oh, and there's the Packers. Now I'm going the wrong way. But yeah, felt like they were worthy of passing up the Titans there in a win over the Patriots. Again, not a huge win, maybe for the franchise, if anything. Good for them to get a win under their belt. But regardless, Commanders move up a spot to 24. Packers at 23. 3-5 on the year. They get a win over the Rams. I almost thought that they weren't worthy of moving up just because of so far this season, they haven't looked good, even recently. And even with looking good recently, they beat the Rams, who had Brett Ripien in. Royce Freeman got a majority of the touches, and then we're just randomly moving ahead. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, Packers beat the Rams, which I wasn't really that impressed with. So I don't think that I don't think it was worthy of them moving up much. But they get a win, had to move up, and that's just what happened. Moving on to the next team, the Buccaneers, which we already saw. Moving back 2 spots. I've been saying they're frauds all year long, and they're on a 4-game losing streak right now. So they just keep losing and losing and losing. Close game against the Texans, but defense has got to hold out there. That's been their strong point through the whole year so far, and you got to hold them. I mean, I don't even think the Buccaneers' offense is that good, and they put up 37 points and lost. Defense has got to be better because that was kind of what was holding them in. They got, Baker can work, got good receivers. They don't have a run game, but they have a strong defense. That was kind of their identity. And when their defense doesn't play, they're almost always going to lose. So they keep moving back all the way back to 22 now. With the Indianapolis Colts moving up with a win. Just the 1 spot. Again, not a huge, crazy win or anything, but they get a win nonetheless. Deserving of moving up. They go to 4-5 with Gardner Minshew, who I think is playing well this year. They get Jonathan Taylor back, and Zach Moss filled in very well, was one of the best rushers in the league. So off week for them, but the defense ends up being the reason that they win this game against the Panthers. Again, it was a Panthers win. You can't really move them up that much, but still deserving of moving up to me, the 1 spot to 21. Jets moving back a couple spots. I kind of bought into the hype with their couple big wins that they got over bad teams. Their defense playing as well as they have. The offense is just atrocious. You can see their point per game and yards per game very close to the last in the league in both Giants. Both New York teams not able to put any offense together, unlike the only actual New York team, the Buffalo Bills, who have been able to produce a lot of offense. But defense is really shining for them. I didn't think that they got Breece Hall involved enough in this game. Dalvin Cook is washed and not very useful anymore. The blocking wasn't amazing. Chargers do have a good defensive line, but they had been struggling, so you'd wish they'd do a little bit better. A lot of fumbling, so definitely deserving of moving back 2 spots and a pretty horrible look at the Jets. Next we have the Falcons. Bad loss for them, too, to the Vikings, who everybody thought they were going to kill them, just with Dobbs being in and thinking Jaron Hall, Kirk's out, Justin Jefferson's out. Falcons should win here, and they get a bad loss with a game-winning drive by Dobbs. Dobbs fumbles a couple times and gives the Falcons opportunities to take a bigger lead early, and Falcons just kind of blew it. Artie Smith shaved his mustache off, so we don't know what's going to happen there, but Falcons end up moving back 3 spots to 19. Next we have I won't typically move teams past another team just because they beat them, but with how close I had the Minnesota Vikings and the Falcons rated, felt right to have them ahead, so that's why they moved up to 3 spots. You get a big win. You have the Pasternaut down there who is making plays all day long. And, I mean, you look at again, I say the stats don't matter, and this is kind of why. Vikings are 13th in points per game, 8th in yards per game on offense, 17th and 14th on defense, and that's with Brian Flores having the highest blitz rate in the league right now by a wide margin. So their defense is finally coming together. The cornerbacks, their young cornerback room, kind of been showing out where they had seen struggles in the past. And then the offense is still clicking, whether it be Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Josh Dobbs, TJ Hawkinson, whoever it needs to be, it ends up working. Run game hasn't been good for them, but they haven't needed it yet. They've been able to get by. So I think that attributes to Kevin O'Connell's great offense, just able to scheme wide receivers open. If you have a receiver that can get open and a quarterback that can get him the ball, they're going to produce offense, and that's what they've been doing, and that's why they're up at the 18 spot. They are the lowest positive win team, and then you look right here and you go 3-6 Rams. Why do you have the Vikings ranked behind the Rams? The Vikings have a lot of wins against bad teams and have looked like kind of a mess, and they don't really look like a 5-4 team. They still look like a team that they're still likely going for a quarterback next year in the draft. So and they've been putting it together, but if the Vikings win this week, they're going to get, this is going to be a huge opportunity for them to move way up in the power rankings. They could be the biggest mover, but tied for one of the biggest movers this week is the Rams moving back 3 spots. Have to move back a significant amount when you only score 3 points and lose 20-3 against the Packers. Again, doesn't help that Brett Ripien was a quarterback and again, Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson were the ones running the ball. Just didn't work out well for him. So I still believe in the team. Stafford's questionable. Doesn't look like he'll be back this week. He could be. At the very least, he'd be back next week. So that'll give him an opportunity to move back up. But I think they're going to have to string together a couple wins to move up really far for me, or beat a good team by a lot. So Rams end up moving back 3 spots to 17. Next, we have the Texans, who get a massive win over the Buccaneers. Again, probably a closer game than it should have been against a team like the Buccaneers, but the way the game went and how they won and how C.J. Stroud played was just phenomenal. So they were more than worthy of moving back up the 3 spots to the Texans. I had moved them down pretty far to 19 because they strung together a few bad losses after the bye week. So getting this big win, they deserve to move back up into the top half of the league to 16. And then the Chargers move on past them, who to me have been kind of what the Chargers have been these under Brandon Staley these last few years, is like they'll make some good plays and their offense will play well, but their defense won't, and they'll ultimately end up losing games and either barely make the playoffs or just miss the playoffs, or have they even made the playoffs? It's just they seem like they're supposed to be a playoff team, but never end up doing anything. So they move up 2 spots. Was just against the Jets, but they played well. I guess no team played well in comparison to the Jets. They played well. Still isn't saying much. But they beat the Jets, who had a positive record and it showed some promise. And with the way that defense was able to play and against Zach Wilson, he didn't really know what to do. Still got a lot of passing yards, couldn't get in the end zone. And that was great on the Chargers. Chargers forcing a lot of turnovers on defense. And then the offense didn't play all that well, but have played well in the past. So I feel like deserving to move up again to 15, kind of where they belong. Still have the Saints pretty high, moving up this week against the Bears. Beating the Bears, again, probably should have beat them by more. Didn't cover. And they probably should have should be lower on this list, but they're still 5-4. They lead their division, so they're 14th. They could definitely move them back a couple spots. Like they could probably be at 16, and then the Texans would slide up a spot. But then do you move the Chargers up too? I don't know. I'm confident with my position here for the Saints. At 14, you look at their stats. Defense is 7th in points per game and yards per game. 13th and 15th in points per game and yards per game. Again, that's kind of inflated. Just especially like the mostly inflated team that there is the Cowboys, because they've had so many big wins, and then they had like a big loss. But a lot of that will inflate those stats. So again, I feel like it's fair that the Saints stay at 14, still leading their division, still a good team in the NFC. So you got to have them up there at 14 at 5-4. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I keep them where they're at despite a win. It was against the Titans, who, Will Levis's second game. They kind of had his number. I didn't feel like they were worthy of moving past. You'll see these next teams coming up. I don't think that the Steelers are better than either of these teams yet, so I couldn't move them up there. With a big win and maybe a big loss from one of the other teams coming up here, you could see them move up. But the Steelers still have a lot to do to prove. I have them. I would check out. I had them pretty high up in my Contenders and Pretenders video. So if you haven't watched that already, go ahead and watch that. Or I kind of rank the Steelers pretty high up on there. And that's why I still have them at 13. Don't feel like they're deserving of moving up. They've just kind of been squeaking by. Their run game hasn't been good. Defense has kind of been the shining factor. Offense, just in general, hasn't been good under Matt Canada. A little bit better since he came down onto the field. But Steelers got to do more for them to move up for me right now, so they stay at 13, right behind the Seattle Seahawks, who you could argue maybe the Seahawks, with how bad their loss was to the Ravens, also made a good call about this team in my Contenders and Pretenders video. So I'll say check that out again. If based on this power rankings video, I recorded that video before the games last week, and if you look at how this week turned out, I was pretty much spot on. So I would check that out. Some good knowledge in there. But Seahawks move back 2 spots to 12. They get smoked by the Ravens, 30-point loss. Very deserving of it. The stats, again, very inflated from this big loss. Last week they were 11th in points per game on offense and defense, and 17th in yards per game on offense and defense. So another example of how much one game can affect it and inflate it. Like the Seahawks have still been a good team this year. Won big games against like the Lions in overtime. But yet, because of the one big loss, they end up moving way back on the rankings for, points per game, yards per game, whatnot. So Seahawks are still in that top 12, moving back 2 spots though from 10 to 12 at 5-3. Next we have the Buffalo Bills. First time out of the top 10. Started off very strong. Have been on a losing streak here. Just some bad losses. You see, I talked about the New York offenses and how, the Bills are 5th in points per game and yards per game on offense, so they're doing good there. Defense 5th in points per game, but yet yards per game pretty bad, but yet they're still 5-4. So just finding ways to lose games really week in and week out. They lose to the Bengals. And they're, to me, deserving of moving back 2 spots in this case to 11. Doesn't feel right moving them out of the top 10, but they just haven't been putting games together, and they haven't been looking like a winning football team. So Josh Allen's going to have to probably have a game without a turnover. He's had a turnover in every game this week, and he's probably going to have to, the defense hopefully can play better. Obviously, you're not going to get Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White back, but hopefully somebody can step up. They just got Rasul Douglas, so still hopeful for the Bills. I think they could be a playoff team, maybe even make a playoff run, but it hasn't been looking good for them in recent. They're going to need to find a hot streak towards the end of the season here. So Bills are at 11, moving back 2 spots from 9. Next we have the Cleveland Browns, who get a massive win over the Cardinals. Beat the Cardinals, 27-0? So with a big win like that, definitely deserving of moving up. I still think it's tough. Like, it's really just their defense kind of holding out and causing them to win, kind of almost the same way that the Chiefs have. The Chiefs' offense hasn't been amazing this year, but yet they found ways to win games because their defense plays well. It's kind of what the Browns have been, except on a more exaggerated level where their offense is just definitely worse in general than the Chiefs. They're just able to put together wins because of their defense making big plays, and that guy over there, Myles Garrett, making big plays. So the Browns just move up the one spot. I know it was a big win, but it was still the Cardinals, worst team in the league. Clayton Tune's a quarterback. And then the Bills looking kind of to be in shambles. It just made sense for the Browns to move up, so they move up to 10. The Bengals making another big leap. They've definitely moved up the most in these past 2 weeks, but they're starting to finally look like the Bengals. We had them graded lower at the beginning of the year, and they start off slow every year, it seems. So finally continually putting it together, and because of those early games, this is another place where I said the stats are very inflated. They had multiple bad games just to start out the season where the stats were not good, especially on offense. And then, so they end up with the 23rd and 25th rank in the points per game and yards per game. Yet, I think this is the right spot for them. I think they'd probably beat the Browns where they're at now. I don't know if they're much better than some of these other teams. I think we still have to see a little bit more to find out on these next teams moving forward. But at the end of the day, they're 5-3 and deserve to be in the top 10, moving up 3 spots from 12. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys moving back a spot. Granted, it's a loss to the Eagles. They had multiple opportunities to win, and I've been saying all year that their offense isn't cut out to get a win. And this week, their offense was cut out to get a win, but their defense didn't perform. So they really need both sides of the ball to play well to win the games, and most NFL teams do. But with how drastically it's different, where Cowboys, their defense seemed like every week was playing great. And I always said their offense was set up for success because their defense would put them in good field position or give them a lead early to make the play calling easier. And in this game, the offense gets it right and the defense just can't stop the Eagles. So definitely deserve to move back a spot despite having great stats. Again, the stats, 3-10, 6-3, pretty great, but they slide back to 8 from 7. In my power rankings at 5-3. Lions move up a spot, had a bye week, only moving up because I felt the need for the Cowboys to move back behind the Lions. I just think the Lions are a little bit better than the Cowboys right now. I think the Cowboys are a little fraudulent. Also made it into my contenders and pretenders video, so another reason to check that one out. Not much more to say about the Lions. They have a bye week. Hopefully coming back strong with a possibility to move up. Jaguars, another team with a bye week. A lot of these top teams had bye weeks, so no reason to move them. Looking great this year. 6 seems like the right spot. 49ers, hopefully this bye week for them can help because they very much so need it, having a 3-game losing streak. So we'll see what happens for them. Again, bye week, can't really move them around very much. Their points per game, yards per game, and points per game on defense, all those moved up like a couple. So something about the teams around them must have helped their ranking there. But I still think the 49ers are one of the top teams in the NFL. Everybody can have a slump. It doesn't mean Brock Purdy should be done. It doesn't mean Sam Darnold needs to be the starter. It doesn't mean they're out. They dealt with some injuries. I think the 49ers are come back strong. They stay at 5 for now. The Miami Dolphins moving back a spot to 4. Had them pretty high up. Actually, I think they moved back 2 spots. I think my graphic's wrong there. But Dolphins moved back 2 in a loss to the Chiefs. Probably should have won that game to the Chiefs. Yeah, to the Chiefs. Offense is still very strong. Just struggled a lot early on. Lot of problems actually with didn't start off too hot. Chiefs kind of had their number, showed that they can be stopped, and that's definitely still a weakness there. And then the defense, although the defense has been playing better, they shut down Travis Kelce, but not much else because Mahomes was able to get it to other receivers. He was able to scramble and get yards. So although Kelce only had 3 receptions for 14 yards, you'd say that's a W for the Dolphins defense. You still lost a game. So Dolphins move back 2 spots, I believe it was, to 4. Meanwhile, the Chiefs move up a spot, which fittingly, I mean, deserving of it. I think ESPN has the Chiefs ranked as number 1, which is kind of odd to me. It's great to see their offense playing well, but they still haven't really found their identity. on offense because obviously there's the Mahomes to Kelsey connection, but in this game, didn't really have much of that. He was able to get it to other receivers. Pacheco didn't necessarily have a very productive day. Their defense just played well again. And I think they've been well-rounded, but they have the bad loss to the Broncos, and then they have the loss to the Lions, despite, they had the injuries. So, you look at those two games, like if Mahomes is healthy, probably beats the Broncos. If Kelsey or Chris Jones are healthy, probably beats the Broncos. So I guess I could see that would be your reason why, but it does show that the Chiefs need all of their superstars to win games. Same thing happened to the 49ers, and that's the reason they're moved down. So the Chiefs move up a spot at 3. Couldn't change. I mean, the Ravens with dominating a team like the Seahawks were being talked about as a great team this year, and if the Seahawks win this game, they move ahead of the 49ers in their division. So Seahawks were looking like a good team, and the Baltimore Ravens just made them look like a high school team. So when they get a win like that against a potential contender, I actually labeled them as a pretender, and you can see that in that video. But Ravens, I put in the contenders, and they continue to prove that and have had a great season so far. You can see the defense, first in points per game, second in yards per game, is phenomenal. Their offense has been cooking. Lamar's had some low passing number games, but the running game has been top tier with the emergence of Keaton Mitchell. Gus Edwards has been having good games. So, of course, you still lose J.K. Dobbins, and you have Justice Hill, who doesn't really do much. But Gus Edwards and Keaton Mitchell have played well. So good for them. They moved to the 2 spot, leaving only one team left, staying at number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the best record in the league. Their defense hasn't been very good this year, especially against the Cowboys this week. Was pretty rough. So I think it would be very easy for them to lose the 1 spot to the team like the Ravens or the Chiefs. But for right now, they still just proved to be a juggernaut. They beat the Cowboys, who are a top team in their division. So it's only right that they stay at the 1 spot right now. Again, I think it would be very easy to lose it to a team like the Ravens or the Chiefs. But Eagles have been very complete. I think they've gotten lucky in some games and some of their wins, with getting love literally and metaphorically from the refs. So we move on. This is the whole overview here. Oh, that's the thumbnail. Howdy do. So let me know what you think I got right, what I got wrong. Again, looking at this big picture here and what I might change around. I talked about it a little bit. I think you could probably, what team was I saying? Oh, the Rams. I think the Rams, you could probably move back a little farther. I got the Vikings at a 5-4 record behind the 3-6 Rams. I just think when the Rams have been healthy, they've looked like the better team, and the Vikings haven't done enough to show me that they should be moved up into that top half of the league. I've got the Texans, at 16, who I felt like have strung together some nice wins, and the Chargers really haven't beat any good teams and haven't been very consistent at all. I've got them in the top half, so I think that whole region, that whole 14, maybe even 13 with the Steelers being in there, that whole 13 to probably 20 could all be shuffled around however you'd like. So let me know what you disagree with, if there's something that I'm completely wrong about or anything that you would change. Stay tuned. I've got my picks video coming out tomorrow. And then I've got another video, kind of an impromptu video that I was putting together real quick before I shot this one. So another video coming out possibly today, maybe a double upload tomorrow. So stay tuned for those. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.